In February 2026, a jury in Cumberland County, North Carolina, delivered a guilty verdict in one of the most disturbing murder cases the community had ever seen. Miguel Angel Navarro was convicted of abducting and murdering Rebecca Fellows, a mother of 5 in the Hope Mills area. Prosecutors said the crime was planned in advance and carried out with the help of Navarro's girlfriend, Beverly Ann Harris. Investigators would later piece together what happened using surveillance footage, cell phone data, social media messages, and even data from a fitness tracker. But behind the courtroom testimony and the digital evidence is the story of Rebecca Fellows, a woman whose life was taken and a family searching for justice. This is the case of Rebecca Fellows and the monsters that took her life. A disclosure, I am not a journalist, and no, I don't feel qualified for this at all. But I am friends of the mother of this poor woman, and she asked me to do this. At first, I thought no. Again, I'm not qualified. This isn't my type of content. I thought about the algorithm and how it's going to affect my channel. But then I remembered I'm a mother. And if someone did this to my daughter, I'd probably be wearing orange for the rest of my life. The least I can do is make a YouTube video. But seeing how actual journalists handled this story and the mother of the victim, maybe it's best that I do this. I'm not going to be professional. I'm angry. I'm angry for the family. My heart breaks for the mother. But I'm going to do this as much justice as I can. Before we talk about the crime, we need to talk about the person whose life is taken because she matters. Rebecca Fellows was a mother of 5. Her youngest child was only 14 months old when Rebecca died. Friends and family remember her as smart, determined, fiercely devoted to her children. She graduated with honors, even after becoming a mother at a young age, and according to those that knew her best, she had a strong personality and a wide circle of friends. Like many single parents, Rebecca was working to build a life for her and her family, and to provide for her children. On July 9th, 2020, Rebecca agreed to meet 2 people she had connected through using an online app. What she believed to be a consensual adult meeting would instead become the beginning of a crime that shocked investigators and devastated a family.
This is totally out of character for her to have just disappeared. A family member said that Miss Rebecca Fellows had been, dropped off the night prior, or during the early morning hours of the night, and hadn't been seen or heard from since. She was the kind of person that, from her family, would constantly keep in touch with her kids and talk to them regularly. So for her to just kind of go off the radar, so to speak, caused a lot of concerns for the family.
Security cameras from a church parking lot in Hope Mills, North Carolina later showed Rebecca meeting a woman named Beverly Harris. Minutes later, a man arrived in a Dodge Challenger registered to Miguel Angel Navarro. The 3 left the parking lot together. It would be the last time that Rebecca Fellows was ever seen alive. According to prosecutors, Rebecca was taken back to Navarro's home in Hope Mills. She was brought into the garage, where they had a tarp waiting for her. What followed was a violent attack. Evidence presented in court showed that Rebecca fought back. She injured Navarro badly enough that he later contacted his wife, a traveling nurse, about how to diagnose and treat a concussion. He would never explain how he got that injury. Despite fighting for her life and begging for her life, Rebecca was inevitably killed. Investigators say Navarro first attempted to strangle her. When that failed, prosecutors argued, he injected her with an unknown substance to stop her heart. After her death, authorities say Navarro and Beverly Harris attempted to conceal the crime by dismembering the body and discarding the remains along a rural road off Interstate 40 near Benson, North Carolina. Rebecca was reported missing, and for 11 days, her family searched for answers. A break in the case came when Beverly Harris finally started cooperating with investigators.
Medical examiner's office has officially confirmed that remains found are that of a missing Hope Mills woman. Rebecca Fellows' body was found on I-40 in Benson last month. She was reported missing in July. 2 people, these 2 right here, charged with her rape and murder.
Harris eventually led the authorities to the location where they dumped her body. Because of the amount of time that had passed and the conditions outside, the remains were already decomposed. Rebecca was then eventually identified through a steel plate that was put in her leg at Fort Bragg. From that point on, investigators began piecing together what happened, using a combination of digital evidence and witness testimony. Surveillance cameras had already captured the moment that Rebecca met Harris in the parking lot. Cell phone data placed Rebecca at Navarro's home. Investigators also discovered communication between Navarro and Harris through Snapchat, where prosecutors said the two discussed these violent fantasies in the days leading up to the killing. This was Harris's fantasy to kidnap and rape a, quote, useless whore, unquote, to forcibly violate and murder her. This was her fantasy, and Navarro was on board. Even Navarro's Fitbit would later become part of the timeline, recording a spike in his heart rate at the time of the murder. Taken together, the digital evidence helped prosecutors build their case in reconstructing the crime. In 2023, Beverly Harris pled guilty and agreed to testify against Navarro as part of the plea agreement that spared her from the death penalty, a penalty I believe she should still face. I should note that Harris sobbed in court. But where was that emotion when Rebecca pled for her life? Where were the tears for her when Navarro knocked out all of her teeth? Where were the tears, Beverly, when you cut off this woman's hands and feet with a hacksaw? I'm sorry, this is not professional, but where were the tears when you watched your boyfriend violate a helpless woman? I have no sympathy for Beverly Ann Harris, and may she rot in hell. Beyond the sick fantasy and taking part in this disgusting crime, sources say Harris put an order in for this t-shirt on Etsy. A TikToker made a video about how funny it was that the actual killers had ordered this t-shirt, celebrating what they had just done to this poor mother. The comment section blew up with people telling this TikToker to take the video down. I've seen it. The mother of the deceased has it saved on her phone. The lady was laughing. Influencers do better. The TikToker eventually took the video down. Harris's testimony would be key in the prosecution's case against Navarro. The trial of Miguel Angel Navarro began years after Rebecca's death, and the proceedings were extremely difficult for the family. Like many serious criminal cases, the trial did not happen quickly. A series of legal motions and continuances stretched this case on for almost 6 years. Those delays are part of the legal system's effort to ensure every defendant receives a full and fair defense, something that we are afforded under the Constitution. But for Rebecca's family, it also meant years of torment and waiting before this case was actually heard in court. During the trial, Rebecca's mother, Dixie, sat through testimony describing all the gruesome things that happened to her daughter. She endured every horrible detail of the last moments of her daughter's life. I'm sorry. She heard in detail the horrible things that were done to her daughter, her baby. The woman was 40, but as a mother can tell you, it doesn't matter how old your kids are, they're always your baby. She had to see photos of her daughter's remains, the pieces of her daughter. The skull wasn't even found immediately. The emotional toll was enormous. In the weeks leading up to the trial, Dixie had 2 heart attacks. We didn't think she was going to make it. But she fought. She fought hard to survive long enough to see her daughter's killers brought to justice. Even after Rebecca's remains were found, Dixie faced hardships. It took months before her remains could be returned to her mother for cremation. Sorry, I had to take a break in recording. I've never had to do that before, but it's hard not to get emotional when you know the people involved. GoFundMes were set up to help with funeral and cremation expenses, but that money was never handed over to the mother, who had to shoulder the financial burden. As if losing a child wasn't bad enough, That's an extra layer of cruelty that I will never understand. Courtroom proceedings were tense at times. Navarro's attorney filed a motion to not refer to Rebecca Fellows as a victim, as if that's not the textbook definition of what a victim is. A request, thankfully, the judge denied. Security in the courtroom was increased after authorities learned that Navarro had spoken over the phone about the possibility of a violent encounter in court. In other words, he planned on death by cop in the middle of the court proceedings because the family wasn't traumatized enough, I guess. The defense attorney approached Dixie while she was trying to eat lunch. As if eating wasn't difficult enough, she was trying to take care of herself, but you can imagine how nauseous and twisted up Dixie's stomach had to have been during all of this. But she was trying to maintain her strength and just choked down lunch, and the defense attorney approached her, offering his condolences. Now, at first blush, if you don't know anything about law and courtroom decorum, the defense attorney should never speak to the victim's family outside of on the stand. The attorney was turned over to the court, and as far as I understand, the court reprimanded him, although I don't think he was censured. Needless to say, Dixie was in shock. And again, this woman just survived a few weeks prior 2 heart attacks. This was taxing in ways I can't even understand. After more than a week of testimony, the case was finally handed over to the jury, and within 2 hours, they had their verdict. On February 18th, the jury found Miguel Angel Navarro guilty of first-degree murder, first-degree forcible rape, first-degree kidnapping, dismembering human remains, and multiple conspiracy charges. For Rebecca's family, the verdict brought a measure of justice, but it could never undo the loss. As an aside, and something that Dixie didn't ask me to cover, but that angered me a lot, was the media's handling of this case. See, Dixie never spoke with the media, ever, not once. Countless newspaper articles quote her as if they interviewed her. They're very careful how they put it in there. It doesn't say that during her interview with them, but they quote her. That's misleading, and it's dirty. They did approach her during the trial, and she told them to F off. But a case like this, where a mother is in so much pain, leave her alone. Don't quote her as if you spoke to her when you didn't. That's dirty. Now, I met Dixie shortly after her daughter went missing. We met through mutual friends. Back then, I did not have a YouTube channel. I was just another person in her life. The friendship grew during the ordeal. As I said, when Dixie came to me with this, I almost said no. I don't have a true crime channel. I don't want other families coming to me with this. I can't live. My soul could not take this. But I am a mother, and I've seen what this has done to Dixie. I've seen the damage, the tears, the trying to understand why, and knowing that no matter what the answer, her daughter is still gone and she's never coming back. That hole is permanent, and it's painful. Rebecca Fellows leaves behind 5 children, a mother, siblings, and grandchildren, friends, all grieving. Her mom, Dixie, said she hopes that people understand that crimes like this are not always something that happens to someone else, somewhere else. Her message is simple. Be aware of your surroundings. Be careful of the strangers you meet online. Remember that human lives are behind the headlines. Rebecca Fellows was more than a case, a courtroom verdict, and a headline. She was a daughter, a mother, a grandmother, a sister, a friend, and a person deeply loved by those that knew her. And Dixie, I'm not sorry I got emotional. I've seen what you've gone through, and I hope that you can now put this to bed and find some peace. I love you.